Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit.
Hi, guys, and welcome to Tales of the Pit once again. Tonight we have Chris Williams with us, videographer at NHP, formerly known as Meadowbrooks. Chris, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got involved in this whole crazy business.
Well, hi, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. Last year was my first year as a videographer up at Meadowbrook. I worked many of the shows up there. I've been shooting stuff for a long time. I used to work in cable access. I've shot some sports. I worked on a few indie films. Prior to that, I actually did roadie a few shows at Meadowbrook as one of the day hires back in the day. And that was kind of a fun time. But this was my first year as a person sort of like, with full access to the venue. And it was a dream actually to see some of the bands live and get paid to, film them and be that close. It was really cool.
Sounds like an interesting background you got there, Chris.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit more about why you got into doing video and stuff like that.
Well, I first got into video in public access. I had some friends that wanted to start making movies, and we thought, well, we'll volunteer at a public access station. Great way to get, access to free equipment. And then I started teaming up on films and working with people on some indie films. And then I landed a job at a public access station, ran a station for almost like 10 years, and really started really getting good at shooting and editing and covering, everything from town board meetings to school concerts and plays. And I have a really good eye for video and music. I'm very musically inclined, so it felt perfectly natural to sort of start working at a concert venue and shooting stuff live. It's just really hard I like taking direction, but sometimes I feel like I know where the song's going and I got my director and he's like, what are you shooting? I'm like, I know where the song's going, just trust me. But I had a lot of fun working up there last year, and something I hope we can, do again real soon.
Now, you did some radio stuff as well, right?
Yes, I did some radio stuff. I did some college radio, and now I've started doing a podcast called The Vinyl Loft, where I share music from my vinyl collection. I'm a collector. I've been collecting records for over 30 years. And this is actually my home studio setup. I rebuilt a lot of it during the, quarantine. So I rebuilt my console, and now I'm really happy with what I have in here.
Tell me, do you have a favorite type of artist or genre of music you like to shoot with us?
Yeah, probably the show that was the most exciting for me to sign on for was the Royal Affair show, which featured Yes. I've been a fan of them for years. I love prog rock. And even though, Chris Squire is no longer with us and John Anderson wasn't in the band, they put on a fantastic show. I was really impressed with the set. And I got to tell you, that was my first show being the pit camera operator. So you got this big, heavy camera on your shoulder. And they did Gates of Delirium, which is like a 25-minute long song off the Relayer album. And I'm just like, okay, I'm riding it. I know the song, and I'm just waiting for the last movement of the song to come up so I can be just like, okay, 3 more minutes, and it's almost over. But it was a fantastic show. You got the picture up there now of the keyboard player for John Lodge and the Moody Blues Experience. I talked to him backstage at dinner because he came up to me and he was like, I saw you singing along with every single song at our sound check, and that was really cool. This was the only show I actually like hung out during the sound check in the venue because I was just like, I just want to completely experience this show. It was just so amazing to be there. And Arthur Brown was performing with Carl Palmer. He pulled him out of retirement, and I saw him backstage. He was kind of fun. His wife actually came up to me and asked me if I knew what the Wi-Fi password was for the venue, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't. And then I saw her later on sitting with Arthur Brown, so I just like, sort of went over, sat down, and I was like, so is this the god of hellfire? And he was like, yes. I'm like, hi, Arthur, nice to meet you. So that was a really fun show, and I really enjoyed it. That was like, I think that was like my second or third show, and talking about knowing the music and trying to like work with the director. The director a lot of the time was like, why aren't you shooting the guitar player? Why are you shooting the bass player? And I'm just like, there are Yes songs where you have to be shooting the bass player. I even had fans come up to me after the show. They were like, you guys barely had any shots at Billy Sherwood. I'm like, yeah, I know. I tried. But it was really fun.
How many people do you have on your crew for the video?
There are 3 camera operators and a director. And we get there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, set up the side high perched camera, and then we set up like the big TV camera that's like right next to the sound mixing board, and then we just have the pit camera.
And then you're usually doing the pit cam?
We kind of moved around after the Yes show. A lot of members of the crew were kind of just like, it's a really long night. Actually, after Chicago, they've discovered it's kind of a really long night to just be holding the shoulder camera for like an entire like 2 or 3 hour set. So they actually started rotating us, which was kind of cool because then that bumped up everybody's pay. Because basically the way they did it was, if you were the pit camera, you got a little bit more than the other 2 camera operators because obviously you're working a more physically taxing camera location.
Sure.
So Chris, you don't have free range at what you shoot. You're taking orders from a director, I understand?
Yes, generally we're taking orders from a director, but we can also say, hey, I've got a really cool shot if we were on standby, and the director will take it. Of course, during some of the shows where they'd be like I would talk to some of the kids in like the front row, and I found out that there was like a girl, and it was like her birthday that night. So I think at like the Cage the Elephant show, I said to the director, hey, there's this girl in the front row and it's her birthday. Let's try to see if we can get a shot of her on the big screen and stuff.
And the director's usually front of house, I take it?
Yeah, the director he's down in the bowels of the venue. He's in the backstage area somewhere.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And you've got communication. You've got a mic or something like that on a headset that you can communicate with the director.
Yes.
That's cool.
Answer this, Chris. When you're up front, and we all know it's very loud up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, we have all ear protection on, and you can hear everybody fine and everything. When Steve's talking to me or one of these guys is talking to me up front, I can't hear a word they're saying.
Yeah, I could hear. Okay, I mean, to be totally honest, I didn't wear ear protection until the freaking Kids Bop show. Yeah. Once the 10 and 11-year-old girls started like screaming, and I was like, oh my god, this is louder than like the metal shows that I was just filming. They like ran me out like a pair of earplugs for that. That was like, hair standing on the back of my neck loud. That was bad, but every other show wasn't so bad.
Those are Hemp's grandchildren.
Yeah,
all of them. Yes. And he's right. They're loud. That's louder than any heavy metal show when they start screaming.
Yeah.
His parents even
You guys
cringe.
serious about this? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They do.
No kidding. That's
I've learned over the years, I get picked on by some concert goers. I wear earplugs every show because you just never know where you're going to end up. As we've discussed, it's pretty fluid, and there may be nights where I'm down front with my head right in a monitor.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt.
You know, even at a show that's kind of low key, a James Taylor or something like that, I wear the earplugs. Just you never know. And I'm not a young guy. You know, Chris, you're a young guy, but
I'm not as young as I look, but thank you.
Well, you're certainly not as old as him.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think what the heck show was? I'm trying to remember what show it was. I think it was like one of the last shows we did. It wasn't Cage the Elephant, but it was like really one of the heavy bands, and I was actually disorientated for the first time. Like, you know, while we were breaking down the equipment, I was just like, whoa, this feels weird.
Yeah.
It really hurt my ears after like one show.
That happened to me one time down at the beach. I went to this concert, and I wasn't even photographing. I was just there, and my ears rang for probably 3 or 4 days after that.
Yeah.
It was
Probably
bad.
twins of evil.
Yep.
So Steve, I believe you took all these shots. You were at that show as well. These are all your photos. Is that correct?
yes, sir.
And
I took them.
Yeah, but you know,
Good job, buddy.
these are the shots I took it at the Royal. What the hell is it called?
The Royal Affair.
Thank you. I see. You know, you guys remember what it's called, and you know,
I got the list.
we talk about specific songs and stuff like that. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, it was fun. We had to shoot front of house for everybody but Yes, and as you can see that when I got to shoot Yes, we got down front, and it was kind of fun to be down there shooting Steve Howe. I know that these guys are older now. He looks more like that professor from Whiplash that you really don't want to get in your music class, but he's an amazing musician, and he's just a lot of fun to shoot and great fun to listen to.
yeah, I really wanted to just compliment you on this photo because this is a fantastic photo.
Yeah, it is. And they were really great guys backstage too at dinner. I think the worst thing, you talk about like how old they kind of look. I unfortunately couldn't tell Alan White from Jeff Downs, and I was behind Jeff Downs in the dinner line, and I was just like, I wanted to say hi to him, but I couldn't remember like which member of the band he was because they both look exactly the same because of the way they've aged.
So Chris, I know you were at the Breaking Benjamin show as well, and I thought that was we got some killer photos from that show. And Diamante is, I think you're like me, a huge fan. You want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, I definitely fell in love with her that night, and I have her LP in my hand here. It took me a while to get it, but I talked to her a little bit backstage, and she couldn't have been more friendly. She was definitely like welcoming to the fans. I remember she was like inviting people to go back and talk to her at the merch table. And while I wasn't on camera because we had 4 bands to shoot that night, so we kind of were rotating out, so everybody sort of like got a chance to be off camera for some of the nights so they could have dinner, because I think there was an early start time for that show. And Diamante she blew me away. I just stood by the front of house camera and just watched her 20-minute set, and she blew me away. I had never heard of her, and I just thought she was absolutely amazing. I mean, she's a beautiful young girl, and she was a lot of fun to hang out with backstage. They have like these big, like adult-sized big wheels backstage, and all the tours come through and they play on them. By the time Diamante got there, most of the brakes had been burned out on the adult-sized big wheels. I think it was during the Weird Al show, because one of his roadies were doing like burnouts and like spinning around on him and like stopping really short. So the brakes weren't very good, but she was like, we're a big wheel mafia. And they were like rolling around down backstage. And I think they actually tweeted a lot and posted a lot of Instagram video of them like rolling around in the go-kart on the big wheels backstage. But she's really fun. I mean, she's very open to her fans. I don't know if it's a good thing, but she actually posts her cell phone number on Instagram and Twitter, so you can like text her and stuff. So it's it's really weird, but she's a phenomenal young artist, and I think she's got a second record coming out, and I'm
next
really looking
month.
forward to hearing more from her.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned she's very friendly. You're absolutely right on that. She did a meet and greet in front of the one of the merchants.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was out there. She was incredibly friendly with everybody. Really inviting. Very nice lady.
Yeah, the first time I heard of her was the single with Bad Wolves. I don't know if you've heard that song.
Yeah.
Which it's a fantastic song. Did she actually play that live at all?
Yeah, that was one of the songs in her set because obviously I think that would have been like her big hit.
Yep.
I think she did that, and I think she did what the heck did she do? I'm definitely sure she did War Cry off her Coming In Hot album, and I don't remember what the other songs were. She may have played Fight Like a Girl, but she's really good, and I mean, she's obviously, you listen to some of her songs, and you'll probably think it's Hailstorm because she has that similar style.
And there was a bunch of bands that night, right?
Yeah, there was Chevelle, 3 Days Grace, Dorothy, Diamante, and Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hemp, these are your photos you took. You were the photographer for that night?
Yeah, me and Glenn. It was that she, like he said, she blew me away. I'd never heard of her, and just her range of voice and just the songs. And she did sound a lot like Hailstorm, but cleaner voice, I thought.
Yeah.
So.
And Dorothy was really good too. And I can remember one show I did where I don't think I even was able to hear the opener because I was up in the side camera, and just the sound that night for one of the openers was just terrible. Because sometimes I'll just take my earphones off so I can hear the band, or at least lower them.
Yeah, it was a fun concert.
Yeah, those are cool shots, by the way, too. So another one of my favorite shows from 2019 was the Hailstorm Alice Cooper Motionless in White show. And Chris, this was one of your favorites as well because you and I talked specifically about this photo. Go ahead and tell me about your experience with this show.
It was a fantastic show. I mean, I've seen Hailstorm, unfortunately, only once. I saw them very early in their career on the Strange Case of Hailstorm tour up at the State Theater in Portland, Maine. But this was my first time really seeing, Lizzie all these years later, just how well she's grown musically, performance-wise. I mean, she's just absolutely amazing. I mean, if you go on YouTube, you can see like the videos of her and her brother when they were like 14, 15 years old, playing in bars with their uncle and like high school shows. And they do this one song where like her brother, AJ, is like in a drum set that like spins around. And the kid's like 14 years old in this video. But to see Lizzie last year was absolutely amazing. I think you and I were talking at the pit while I was shooting that part of the show. And I was, I think I kind of just leaned over and was like, it would be really cool if you could like do this over the shoulder shot of me operating the camera and have Lizzie there in the frame. And I was just like, and then I saw it get posted to the Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion page. I was like, that's awesome. I think you friended me after I like shared this photo. And it was so much fun. And so backstage at dinner, all throughout the season, I've worked in video, I've worked in film. I always know when you're working on a production, you don't talk to the talent, but I was just like, it's Lizzie. And I just had to say hi to her. And I just said, hi, Lizzie. And she was like, hi, honey. And she tapped me on my shoulder. And then the joke was going to be for the rest of the season, I wasn't going to wash my crew shirt because Lizzie Hale touched me. But it was a fantastic show. And now I don't know what kind of stipulations you guys have as still photographers when you're filming shows, but not so much for Hailstorm, but for Alice, we were kind of limited to what we could shoot. They kind of told us like what they wanted us to shoot for Alice, and they basically wanted us just to keep Alice on the screen the whole time, all Alice all the time. And our director was like, for people watching the show, dude, that doesn't really work. I need to cut away from Alice when there's guitar fills and all this other, and cover all the stuff that's going around on the stage. So they kind of relented and backed off, and it was a pretty friendly thing. But the one thing that we had was we had to be tight on Alice. We had to shoot Alice from the waist up, like Elvis on Sullivan. We were specifically told no crotch shots of Alice. Which, you know, I mean, you guys know photography. You know that skull belt that Alice has on when you're shooting a show from the pit. You kind of want a really cool low angle shot of the talent.
It almost sounds like you have more restrictions put on you guys than we do, actually.
That was really the only one. The only other tour we had, I think, some restrictions was Beck, and that took a while to rig up what they wanted, because they wanted Cage the Elephant and Beck to all be in black and white on the monitors, but it took a while for our director to like figure out how to drop out all the color on the board backstage. But eventually we got it, and that was kind of a funny show because we were fully prepared to shoot the whole show, and then they were like, "Oh, our camera people are going to shoot Beck. You guys just hang out." And we're like, "Okay." So I got paid to watch Beck.
Wow, that's pretty cool. A quick. It looks like Eric Hemp, you and I got the same exact photo at the different angles.
Yep.
So
I
you
was
get this
noticing
one right
that
here,
too.
and then I have this one right here. So it's the exact same moment. It looks like.
Yeah, I think I was to your right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's funny. So yeah, Chris. So yeah, getting you inside the photo in somewhat of a shot while I'm still focused on the artist, that was quite a challenge. It took me like several attempts till I got something that was remotely usable, which is what we just saw.
That actually
But that's what you want. You know,
Right,
she's in
right.
focus, I'm out of focus. It's a perfect in depth of field and composition. I mean, and you guys are really great to work with in the pit. I mean, I didn't really talk to any of you guys, but I got to say, you know, everybody kind of, you know, stayed out of everybody's way, and there weren't any issues. You know, I was afraid that I was going to be like whipping around my camera and like, you know, whacking you guys with a handheld, like, get out of my way. But no, it worked out really well, and it's a great team effort.
Yeah, I always try to give you a wide berth.
But I will say there were some shows where, you know, we just didn't have the shots, and you know, I had the guts to finally stand up on that barricade thing and like walk across it, you know, on the footholds to stand there to get better shots, because, you know, it's what I needed to do.
Yeah, certain shows I mean, it feels like certain shows the barricade is closer to the stage than others, so it's really tight.
Yeah,
And, you know, and then again, certain shows it's just us, you know, as the crew for both photography and video. And then other shows, I think Alice Cooper was one where they had a bunch of other, you know, like from a magazine or from the radio or something like that. So they had a bunch of other photographers as well.
Yeah, I mean,
it can be juggling.
Yeah, I will say some of the things about some of the shows were annoying, kind of like from an unprofessional thing about some of the openers that had like, you know, their own like DSLR person shooting footage from the stage for the band, and I'm just like, we don't want to see you walking around the stage with a camera shooting the shooting the show.
Right. Yeah, we have limitations on what we, you know, usually it's no video for us. It's strictly photos only during, you know, obviously during certain songs.
Yeah, not you guys, but there were like people with the bands that were shooting their own stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a whole mix. I mean, we can get into do's and don'ts for photographers, and maybe someday we will, but there's a mix of things you can and cannot do, or should and should not do. And, you know, we run into all of the whole spectrum when it comes to that.
Now, Chris, do you ever research a show before you get up there and shoot?
Honestly, I was thinking of doing that for some of the bands I wasn't familiar with, just so that I could familiarize myself with their material and know where it's going, know where the songs go. Obviously, when I was shooting Yes and Chicago, I knew where they were going. The most research I will do occasionally is I'll go on to Setlist and sort of like that Setlist website, and get an idea of what the band's playing. So at
Mhm.
least I know what's coming. Because I think, like, I looked at Weird Al's set list and I was like, all right, he's going to sing The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear that song live.
I'm a big fan of Setlist FM. I'm on there quite a bit. And if given the opportunity, I'll swing over to YouTube if I know that you see certain acts, and we know which acts those are going into a show, where the first 3, 4, 5, 6 songs are the same every show. Then you know that's going to be the order that we're going to see. And I'll go out and make sure that I try to position myself to get certain types of shots. And I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely for me. I mean, I shot this is, completely unrelated, but probably 10 years ago, I was shooting a Beatles cover band with one video camera. And when I cut the show together, you would have thought I shot the show with 2 cameras, because it's the Beatles. I knew where to be for every single song, every single beat. And I would shoot one verse one way, and I would shoot another verse another way, and synchronize the 2 pieces of footage together so it looked like I was using 2 cameras. And the band and when the band saw the video, it was like, how did you know where to be at what point? I saw you like quickly pan to, and you got the guitar solo or you got the drum solo, and I'm like, it's the Beatles. I know that stuff cold. That was kind of like where I was at when I was shooting Chicago. I knew the set. I knew where the songs were going to go, and it was tough. That was like my first show doing the pit camera, and it hurt trying to arch my back to lift it up to shoot, the horn line and get good shots of the horn players.
So you guys expected to shoot every show for the season, or do you get to pick and choose, or how does that work?
Good question. Basically, yeah, we pick and choose the shows we want to work. But in some cases, many of the tours carry their own video people. Mostly the country acts, because Moo TV, which is like the big video package touring people, they tour with most if not all of the acts out of Nashville, and so they'll generally be there for all the country shows. So those are the shows that pretty much, if you're a videographer working the venue, you probably don't even need to bother signing up for those shows, because you're going to get cut.
Who knows?
Chris, do you exclusively just shoot for the venue, or do you do other events?
Well, right now I pick up freelance work when I can.
Mhm.
I'm not a full-time videographer. I don't even own my own video camera at this point. Back when I used to freelance, I used to just use the cameras from the public access station I worked at, because I ran the thing and I could get away with doing stuff like that. But I don't do a lot of freelance video as of late, but if I pick up a gig like this, I'll do it. I'm basically just working for the company that gets contracted out by Meadowbrook to
Okay, I see.
to do the shows. But for the most part, I'm an antiques dealer.
Nice.
Very good.
Nice.
And I work, and I record my podcast. I record my little internet radio show every once a week or something. But that's basically what I'm doing right now, and I pick up freelance work when I can.
Well, cool. Well, Chris, we want to say thank you for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully once whatever the next season is that starts up again, we hope to be getting a lot more stories from, behind the camera as well as behind the videographer as well. So we really appreciate you coming on.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks,
So-
Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Before we call it a night, where do people go to find more about you and stuff like that? If they want to listen to your podcast, if they want to work with you on videography stuff, where do people go to find you?
Well, my email is CDW Videography, and I'm over in Enfield, New Hampshire, and the name of the show is called The Vinyl Loft, and you can find that on it's on Apple iTunes, but you can find that on Podomatic and Mixcloud for like the full history of shows. The Podomatic has like the most current shows as well as the ones that you can actually download, but you can stream all the shows on Mixcloud.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for coming, guys, and watching our show tonight. If you have any comments or questions, please email us at nhconcertphotogs@gmail.com. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.